And Michael's not going to be with us today, so I am going to do the show. And I ask you all to just step in with me and talk to me. I'm actually going to do some processing, so any support that you all can offer is great. So yesterday was a little bit challenging for me. My younger brother came in, so he did help tremendously to make decisions. But my dad is not, it doesn't look like, without a miracle, that he's going to get to the point of coming home. And he's about to expire the time that insurance allows him to stay at the skilled nursing center. So we went to find an appropriate assisted living memory care place to move him to. And we settled on one, and we're waiting for them to go, and they'll have to assess Dad and determine at what stage of care. And of course, depending on how much care he needs, the dollar price goes up. But when we visited two of the places, we let go of the third one, and we chose one of those two, and then we spent the afternoon with Dad. We went and visited with him and played dominoes with him and talked to him. And then we headed out to go to my son's celebration of his birthday. And so we ended the evening on a really good high note. And then I came home and just did some breathing and tried to forget the day. But one of the things that came back to me is when I was teaching a women's class, and I had processed something that had come up for me, and it was actually around my son and his job and everything. This was many years ago. And everybody in the audience was like, oh, well, don't worry about this, or, oh, just let him do that, or oh, you need to, and they were giving me what we call problem solving. And I attempted to bring it around to them and say, look, it's not about that. What is up for me is mine. And the incident with my son was just a trigger. And so this is the same thing, is that what is up for me is mine around my dad. And give me a minute to breathe. And the whole situation is just the trigger. So what came up for me, I was talking to my brother when we got in the elevator after we left Dad, and we were headed down to the car, and then we were going to go meet my son and the rest of the family for the birthday celebration. And I said, I wish I could turn back time and do whatever I needed to do to keep Dad from getting COVID. I mean, we tried really hard for 2 years, did more than try. We kept him safe. And, we recovered, Michael and I did, and we actually got some blessings and some other healing through the process. When my dad got it, and he was in the hospital for 11 days, and they basically were treating him for his low oxygen and the COVID and the, giving him the antibiotics and steroids and all that, but they weren't getting him up. So he forgot how to walk. He forgot how to take himself to the bathroom. He forgot how to feed himself. And I can't bring him home in that shape. And so what came up for me was I'm processing a lot of guilt. And like my brother, he immediately was like, sis, you've gone above and beyond. Give yourself some slack. There's nothing you could have done. And I know it triggers that I did something wrong, that it's my fault, I'm to blame, not good enough. I mean, all those things.
have come up with this situation. Getting my dad to get back to perfect health and be able to bring him home still would not address the things that are coming up for me. It would be problem solving. And so I'm working on those issues, and you say, you live with the teacher. You're married to the teacher. You should be beyond this by now. And Michael's not here. He's in California. I'm sure he would breathe me and do some worksheets with me, give me a mind shifter. He would process me through this. So that's what I'm working on. And it is process. And I haven't arrived. I wish I could say I had, but I'm in it just like the rest of you. So I open the lines, 563-999-3581. Talk to me. Is anybody out there? No hands up. Okay, there is a hand up. Area code 760. You are on the air. Who do I have?
Hi, this is Ann in Florida.
Hey, Ann.
Okay, so I was doing fine until it triggered the whole thing with my mom. And so clearly, thank you for the gift of that. I still have deeper work to do. I thought I went through enough of the guilt, that, I wish I'd have done more, because ours was more of, yours is like more of a physical thing, that you wish you could have done more. Mine is more, has been, and clearly is still an emotional guilt of, I wish I'd have learned this stuff sooner. I wish I have applied, this program sooner, the whole the Aramaic forgiveness.
Right.
I wish. And I didn't. But I was working on me. And so for the 5 years, she lived next door to me because I brought her up. And it's like, so the guilt was, oh, I shouldn't have brought her up. I should have left her down there. And, it went on and on. And so I let go of those for a while, but I see how that comes back with learning, listening to Dr. Tim's stuff, and I'm getting excited about, because I'm reading through the Bible. It's the first time I've ever read through the Bible, and it's sectioned off. It's from Johnny Erickson-Tado. She's a quadriplegic, and she has, it's prayer for life, and it's not just the life of the unborn child, it's the elderly and what has happened to them. And it's like, okay, and then there's mom. And she just started, she was in her 90s, late 90s, and she had just started getting she probably had, dementia coming on subtly along that, but I didn't recognize it until I took her to a neurologist. And then, okay, and he says, well, just quit reasoning. Well, that's easily said, but for the one who's involved, right, I still would try to reason with her, and there's no reasoning.
Right.
Anyway, I recognize that I get into this guilt thing now. Still, it's better, but clearly I need some deeper work to let go, and I still have things here. She's been gone since 2015. So, and I still have things, and there's some great things that are memories, and I choose to keep, and those are good triggers. But then there's things, photos of her work, and I'll come through a folder of her accomplishments and her creativity. And the other day, and I breezed through that, thankfully, the other day, because I have the tools here. I breezed through that, the certificates of her suggestions and the suggestions she got paid for, you know, that had to do with her department and the telephone company. And it's like, okay, all right, I get this, you know, breathe through it. Acknowledge her for what she had done. And then, you know, the Spirit says, well, look at your own self. You are just as creative. You are, you know, and then I'm reminded of this as we walk through the way of the mastery. And so I think I'll take from what Dr. Tim's, this fourth lesson, which I know he's going to go through again, is desire to go to a deeper level. And I need to apply that.
And you know,
step, you know. Go ahead.
And for us to go to that deeper level, we have to face all of the things that, you know, you only go as deep as your vitality is high. And so if we do something, whether it's the way we eat or the way we live or, you know, not doing your work or whatever, that, excuse me, somebody was texting me and they're writing in the chat room, and it's like I'm not going to be able to multitask and process, so my apologies. But, you know, we can go only as high as we're allowing ourselves, you know, if there's an automatic suppress mechanism that says you're not going to go to this depth until you get more vital. And then realizing that when we get more vital and that next depth comes up, you know, just like the grief and the, you know, self-condemnation and everything, we have to face that and deal with that to be able to go to the next level of our own awakening. You know, we can't just, you know, a lot of people, like I said, you know, when I was doing that worksheet on my son, and everybody was like, well, you know, telling this or whatever, and it's like, no, that's just problem solving. I need to pay attention to what it is that it's triggering in me, and that's my work. Just like this, you know, like I said, I could bring Dad home, you could bring your mom back, you know, or whatever. That's not going to deal with the guilt and the sadness and the, you know, all of those self-condemnations and everything. We have to deal with that if we want to go to the next level of our awakening.
Yes, yes, I agree. And I think
it's not fun.
No, it is not Dr. Feelgood, as Michael said. But it's like you're saying, it's necessary. If we get to that higher vitality, which I know it seems odd, I mean, and it wouldn't do this for somebody else, that for me, getting all of my daughters and son-in-law's furniture out of my house, you know, the first week in December, and it's like then I've been up and down with, okay, now I really am alone. I have great neighbors, you know, stepdaughters an hour and a half away. That's different than having them, you know, I'm not dog sitting anymore for the 3 dogs. I'm not running here and there. I'm not spending a lot of my time, which I had to work through, do wake-up sheets on that. But now I'm up and down with, okay, how do I get organized again? These are things I know what to do. I did them when I was in school, and I had structure, so I need to make my own structure, and I wasn't doing it. I was just so relieved that there was not a lot of furniture in my house, and now I'm enjoying, you know, having all this space, and yet I still have work to do. You know, of all the stuff that I hid while all their stuff was in my house.
Right. I actually, one time I was doing a worksheet on the clutter and stuff, and what I came up with was it wasn't the external clutter, it was the internal chaos. Mm-hmm. And the external clutter was just a trigger for my internal chaos. And what I found was if I could keep everything neat around me and get rid of the clutter, then I wouldn't be triggered. I didn't have to look at the internal chaos. And so the external clutter still bugs me. and I'm still doing work around it. But I also know that it's, you know, what's going on inside, and what came up around clutter and things on the external like that is that there wasn't space for me. There wasn't room for me. I didn't belong. You know, those kind of things. So,
well,
you know,
and
there again, you can clean it up outside all you want to, but until you deal with what it is that's being triggered on the inside, it's, you know, you can have it spick and span and beautiful on the outside, but if you don't deal with what's inside, something else is going to trigger it out.
Yes, and that's true. So it's like I've been working in tandem with that. So thankfully, you know, I have this work, and I have the radio show that we get to listen to, and even Michael and Dr. Tim and all the callers that come in and share their stuff in the archives. I mean, it's just amazing that, and so that is what I'm having to do. So what little bit now, as I pull something out that was clutter, and I changed my words from clear the clutter, calm the chaos, to restore the area, calm my mind. Because I'm restoring it to having space by getting rid of the clutter. Well, I need to do the same thing. As I restore the chaos that was in my mind, then it's calming. And so it's a little bit at a time, and it's a journey. So I'm grateful that I have more vitality to deal with it. And it's just like you've done.
I think you described it perfectly, that it's a journey, because it's, you know, a lot of people, even I'm thinking of, you know, a trip, if somebody goes on a vacation or something, they're always focusing on the destination instead of, you know, looking at the journey in between and enjoying it as well. So, you know, yeah, we have a destination of it being calm and clear and clean and uncluttered or whatever, but in between it is a journey that we have lessons to learn and things that we can enjoy. And so you're right. Thank you.
When you're talking about, and, you know, listening to Sharon, you know, especially when people have asked questions about how your dad was doing, and I could relate to a lot of that, because Mom was in, well, I had home care come in until then Medicare would pay for, you know, hospice, but the things that were learned immediately in the good times, and you've shared that, you know, what you were able to do with your dad, and, you know, and some of those times, and so that's part of our journey. So I'm so getting better at, because I've heard enough of those that are successful with this, you know, on your next vitality level, is that things become a gift more. I mean, I see them as a gift sooner than I did before, so I don't have to wallow in my pity as long. And so that's encouraging, and I think that helps, doesn't it, to go to the next level, to get that next vitality, because we recognize that things are not lasting as long where we used to be. So
exactly, yeah, and able to breathe through it and to see the gift in it. It was really, I don't know, something about what you just said made me think. The other day, I had cleaned up Aria's little, she has half of the living room here that's her space. We call it a play yard.
Right.
And when I was cleaning it up, I found these they're like little stuffed animals, but they're only about the size of half of a softball. I mean, they're just small, but they're called emotions. And so there's like one red one, and it's anger, and there's a green one, and it's, you know, satisfaction or something, and pink, and you know, so anyway, the emotions are written on the back of it, and she had them all out, and we were going through it, and she'd point to it, and she'd ask me what it said, because she's not reading yet or anything, and I told her, and then it was amazing. Each little ball has like feet on the bottom of it that, you know, holds it upright so it sits.
Okay.
And she turned it upside down, and she said, but look, Jeanie, all of them have a heart, and their feet were the shape of a heart. And so, I mean, it didn't matter if it was anger or if it was happiness or whether it was, you know, anxiety, or it didn't matter what the emotion was. Its foundation under each one of them was a heart. It was love. And
Oh my gosh.
We can stand on that.
Yes.
So
That took me to Michael's, what he drew on the board at the intent of the Heartland. Immediately it took me there, because when he was talking about things collapsing in on itself as we do a wake-up sheet, when we get to that cancel the goal, he drew the line. And I don't know how many times he's done that illustration. I didn't remember him doing it that particular way before. But he didn't just draw a line, it seems like, or maybe I made this up when I drew it on my paper, but I put little hearts, like what you're describing, in a line, because that was down under, that's always there. So it's like, okay,
right.
on these little dogs, they're at the bottom of it. And we're in this process, breathing, of uncovering that every time we cancel that goal. And I go, oh my gosh. So that's what just got triggered, that it is underneath. It's there. It's always been there.
It just gets, and we're the ones that cover it up with the other stuff. We are love. It's our very essence, and we take on all the other things. And that love, that being that we are, is untouched. I mean, it may be hidden, but it's always there. And so, we can count on that. Well, thank you, Ann. I appreciate you.
Yes. Whoever else is. Jump in there, folks. We are a community. Okay, blessings. Yeah, breathing with you. Thank you. Okay,
thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Well,
Area code 541, Celinda, you're on the air.
Hello, Jeanie.
Hey.
Hey. Larry and I took care of his mom for 10 years. And we had promised her we would never put her in a nursing home. But as she got extremely demented, to the point of where our care for her was messing with our own marriage, and we were in dire straits in that department, and we were so exhausted, we had to put her in a nursing home. And I went through the very same process that you're going through. It's not the same. It's what resonates for me, my process. And I dealt with the guilt and my drive to be perfect. And so I just take you in my arms and hold you.
Thank you.
There's a lot I'd love to say. In my journey towards wholeness, and one is a lesson I brought with me from the 12-step program, is that we are right exactly where we are in the moment. In other words, we're right on schedule, no matter what it feels like. Because one time when I was in Overeaters Anonymous, I believe I've shared with you and Michael that I was a bulimic for 23 years. One time in the worst depths of my self-hatred, and guilt, and self-isolation, and I went to a meeting. There was a gentleman there from Canada, and he was just visiting, and he was the guest speaker for the night. And during the intimation, we went out, everybody, and I walked up to him and just blurped all over him my whole situation, which is sometimes the safest thing for us to do, is to find a community member we'll never see again and really open ourselves towards them. And he just looked at me and he said, I was in the depths of the worst bulimia. And he said, are you coming to meetings? Which was rather a no-brainer, but I said yes, faithfully. And he said, well, young lady, you are right on schedule. So that was a big help. And we do beat ourselves up. We do punish ourselves with our guilt. and our fears.
That's our work to do. And so when these things bring that up, yeah.
Yeah.
And,
so that,
you know, I keep reminding myself that it wouldn't be in my face if I wasn't ready to handle it.
Well, yes, exactly. And it wouldn't be in my face unless I still had things I was afraid to let go of.
Exactly.
And so the process is the perfection. In this, I came to a realization, intellectually, I'm still trying to inform it into my life and into my brain cells, which are throughout my whole body, that this world is a world of perfect imperfection. That it's the process of our awakening unto ourselves, which I am going through right along with you. In fact, I depend on you as my community. And
well, that was why, you know, I started to, you know, when Michael said he couldn't be on the show today, I started to do another recording, and I thought, no, call on my community. I'm going to process. I'm going to, you know, ask for support.
And I won't keep you longer because there may be someone else who wishes to say something.
Thank you.
I just want to finish with one more thought. Was sometimes our community, from our point of view, is judging us, and they're not. They are offering us an opportunity to see ourselves in a different light than we see ourselves. And my husband did that to me the other day. Not to me, for me. It would have been, my defense would have come up if I'd have thought it was to me. But I was, by grace and my own practices, I was able to listen to him. Grace and grit. We always need grace and grit, Jeanie. I was able to listen to them. Yeah. And then when Dr. Tim this morning, or actually this whole way of mastery that I'm following with Dr. Tim, it's just like, I feel like I'm unfolding right and left in origami. We're unfolding me to see what the whole paper looks like. And I just share that with you. What a blessing. My primal community is my relationship with my significant other, my most significant other. We're here with each other. You're with Michael for a reason of bringing the fullness of yourselves, into only awareness. You're already the fullness of yourselves. Well, I'm speaking to me, too.
We always do.
Out of my mouth is what I mostly need to learn.
Yeah,
and so blessings.
Thank you.
Blessings and blessings. I love you both. I love the whole community. And Anne, I especially love your delight in putting hearts over or below their cross outlines, because I'm going to start doing that today.
Awesome. Thank you.
We are awesome, aren't we, Jeanie?
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. I am.
Area code 610. Hey, Miss Susan.
Hey, Jeanie.
Thank you.
I'm just holding the space here, as you guys always say. You said Michael wasn't there to breathe you, and as you know, I'm the world's worst breather. I just thought, you know, if you wanted to go through a worksheet of any kind or do your own processing with us bearing witness.
Okay. That is, yep, that's a good idea. Let me reach up here and get, and I do the abbreviated, so anybody who, if you go to the website, we've actually made a few changes. There's 6 big buttons when you first open up the website, and one of them says the forgiveness worksheet, or let me flip over there. It says wake-up sheets, free forgiveness support. If you click on that, that is just pages of all of the different, we've got so many different wake-up sheets. And so that's what's under that button. All the other worksheets are under another button that says Other Worksheets, the rest of the tools. And I use an abbreviated version when I do the women's intensives. And so that's the one that I will do here online. So let me open one up.
So, Jeanie, is this under the wake-up sheets?
It's under the wake-up.
Okay.
And then the very first one is the one that Michael uses. It's a 7-step. And then if you go down about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buttons down, it's actually, you'll see Dr. Tim's forgiveness pattern is on there. And then underneath it says abbreviated 7-step that Jeanie uses in Women Healing Women.
Okay. All right.
So,
okay, I'm printing that out so I can just follow you along.
awesome.
And
I'm going to leave your microphone on, and then as we go, if anybody else has a question, write it down, and when we finish this, then I'll be more than glad to turn your mic on and hear what you have to offer, and I'm open. So this is the reality. The reality is the perceptual output of our mind. So there is an actuality going on, that Dad has to go to an assisted living, that his physical therapist has said, that he's probably not going to get independent again. And that's the actuality. Now, the reality, what goes on in my mind, is what I'm going to do this worksheet on. So it's my perception. And forgiveness, this worksheet is the tool for changing my reality. And so it's not going to change what's actually happening out there with my dad, but it will change what's going on inside of me. And the premise, our essential nature as human beings is love. Think about the newborn. The work of healing is to remove anything that is unlike our true nature, so that we come back to the experience of love 24/7, 365. I, Jeanie, who am love, have through denial trained my carbon-based memory to show me the lie that my feelings and my giving up of the experience of my essence love are caused by my trigger, and name the object of attention. Who or what are you focused on? And so it's Dad, and then the little parenthesis with the little blanks, that's for my initials, because it's really about me. And so that's JR, and describe what happened. So my reality is that I didn't do enough to keep my dad safe. That if he hadn't got COVID, I wouldn't be putting him in an assisted living right now. He'd still be home. So my reality is it's my fault.
Got it.
My feelings that are resonated by this situation is grief. And each one of these could be a different worksheet. Grief, fear, blame, shame. I could fill it in with a whole bunch of things.
So, Jeanie, that is a whole bunch of things. Is one of them bigger than all the rest for the sake of this worksheet?
Probably, thank you for bringing me in. Blame, probably. Blaming myself.
Okay, and that's the guilt.
And that's actually kind of, all right, think about this. Blame, is that a thought more than a feeling?
That's interesting. Good question. It's a thought. It's a thought.
It is.
Isn't it?
I think the blame is a thought. So the feeling, probably the biggest feeling is sadness or grief.
You know what I hear when you say
a lighter.
Describe what happened. I didn't do enough to keep Dad safe. He got COVID. My fault. That sounds like it. There's a lot of sadness in there.
Yeah.
But you're going after yourself, something like gangbusters.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
wondering if it's guilt. That's a feeling, isn't it?
Guilt would also be a thought. I'm guilty. So when I think that I am guilty, I feel
You're mad at yourself.
And if we take it even deeper, and thank you for this, because we're kind of going around, but I think that's what we need to do to get to the bottom. We know that anger, which mad is anger, is a drug to keep from looking at what's underneath it, which is usually fear or pain. So, yeah, I am angry with myself. And probably what lies under that is the fear of the result of the actuality.
What does that mean about you? Sounds as if you're afraid about something about you.
Of what, I guess, what the rest of the family will think, I'm supposed to be his caregiver. I was supposed to take care of him. And I failed, and he's paying the result. He's paying the consequences, or paying the...
So what does that mean about you?
I'm a failure.
Anything else?
Unworthy. For some reason, I'm not sure the connection on this, but it's almost like I deserve to feel this way
Because
back to I'm guilty. This one goes a lot deeper than this actuality, for sure.
Yeah. So you've gone in a circle. I did.
Yeah.
You got
help
to the
me
word
tie
fear.
into one of them. To get through a worksheet, we've got to lock in on one.
Well, not necessarily quite yet. I would say you said, I'm afraid of what my family will think. I failed. I'm unworthy. I deserve to feel this way. But it's all pointing to something about you that you haven't dared to say. What does this mean about you?
The thought that comes to mind is that I left home when I was 16 and got married. And I spent 3 years in the most abusive situation. And the reason I wouldn't pull myself out of it is because I thought I deserve this because I left home. I deserve to be treated like this because I didn't listen, because I thought I knew.
And so you were bad. You deserved something. You did wrong way back then, and you felt you deserved punishment. And so
you became a punisher to yourself, and you're doing it again. Is what I think I hear. I know I'm kind of railroading you through.
Yeah, nope, you're right. That hits right on it.
And I am breathing with you, so I'm,
I'm probably doing Michael's Darth Vader thing right now.
No, you're doing great. But you went right on to me, my thoughts that caused my feelings about how I see it, and you've given us so much information about. And so you've taken yourself right down to F. I want to punish and avoid by.
And I do. I punish myself by blaming myself, by just take all the blame for it and put it on my own shoulders.
Right. So you have an abuser built right in.
Yeah, I do. I took up where he left off, even though I left when I was 19 years old.
Yeah, but you took a lot of something with you.
Yep. I'm making notes.
I don't know about you, but I can hardly write. My hand is shaking so much. I mean, I'm really feeling this issue.
You're awesome with this. Thank you so much.
Oh, my God. It's an honor, Jeanie. But, I come from a background of...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm putting myself out there. There's a part of me that's like, I do private sessions with people, and it's like, if one of them is listening right now, they're probably like, oh, my God, she's in worse shape than I am.
There you go. More punishment. Actually, they will be very touched because you're allowing them to join you. This is a huge gift.
What is it that Celinda said earlier? We teach best what we most need to learn. So
you're so open about it. You can only be helping your clients if they're listening.
So I choose to love truth and willingly go through the physical, mental, and emotional symptoms of healing. And for those who may not know, when energy goes in, it creates symptoms. And as we're healing and processing out, the symptoms look the same. So whether it was painful, we may have the exact same pain, like, in my hips, in my neck, mental, the blame and the abuse and the emotional, the crying and all of those. If I look back to when I was 16, 17, 18, 19 years old, a lot of those same emotions.
Right. So, and if you go right to the next one, I, who am love, want Dad
to be whole again.
And that
so
is
that
a goal.
I can feel better about myself.
Amen. So good.
And like I said, if he were back to perfect health and home, it wouldn't solve the real issue. Which is myself wanting to be whole.
So good. So this is a huge gift your dad is giving you.
Yep. And who knows, maybe once I deal with this, he'll be okay.
That's another goal. I'd watch out for that.
Yeah, cancel.
Right. But you've got this goal of your fragile dad who is old, who, he may have COVID, but he's old. And COVID helps people over the edge, like pneumonia for an old person. Who knows whether he's going to go over the edge? But it isn't just COVID. It's his whole condition and stage in life.
Right. I mean, he already had
yourself.
Parkinson's and dementia before he got COVID, and I didn't cause the dementia or the Parkinson's.
Right. So you turned this into a huge bludgeon.
Yeah, I did.
You did. I mean, I remember our phone call about what you should do to get him, safe to go stay with your brother.
Right.
So that you could get a little time off because you were exhausted, and you made a very careful decision. And I don't know the outcome of that decision, but you've been keeping your dad in the center of your heart and care. So,
right.
And
he was double vaccinated and had his booster, and he still got it.
And
I mean, Michael and I were not vaccinated, but I did get Dad vaccinated, and he got it anyway.
Yeah. So I'm breathing with you. But you have really taken this and run with it to reinstate the abuser in your own system.
Yeah. Yep.
You're a bad girl and all the rest of the stuff.
Yeah.
So
I'm writing. Okay. Deep breath.
So reconnecting with your original being takes you way back, and probably much further back than age 16.
That's something that Michael and I have talked about. I can remember being about 5. I don't have any memories before that.
Mm-hmm.
I can look at pictures and pretend like I remember it.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, I don't remember much before I was 5 years old. And I don't remember a whole lot from 5 to 16. And then after I got married, it was like my brothers were 6 and 8 years younger than me. So they were 10 and 8 when I got married. And they were talking one day about me bringing them to my house where my husband and I lived, and them playing in the creek, and they were talking about all those things. I don't even remember that. I was in such a survival mode. I don't even remember having my little brothers over at the house.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like half my life I keep locked out.
Probably for really good reasons. You said you left. You left into the arms of an abusive man, so something wasn't so good at home.
And, that goes back to, we've talked about power people, and I said I always thought my mom was my power person because she was the, very strict. She's the one that always did the punishment and all of that stuff. My grandmother lived with us, and she and I shared a bedroom, and so my grandmother was like my sanctuary. But then one time I was doing a worksheet, and what I realized is that my dad was my ultimate power person.
Yeah.
He always left and went to the farm. He had a good reason, supposedly, to be gone. But that was his way of surviving, was to leave. And so what did I do? As soon as things got tough, I left. And now I feel like he's leaving permanently.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I'm still trying to fix something with him.
Yeah. And he's leaving, which seems like a judgment.
Yeah.
He's leaving because you're inadequate. You didn't live up to something, or you're bad, or whatever it is. But he just can't leave. He can't leave because he needs to leave.
Right.
It's okay if he leaves.
Excuse me for blowing my nose in the phone. I meant to mute it when I did that.
That's
Oh.
totally all right. That's a good resonance.
Oh. All right. I know this isn't going to complete it, but let's see if we can move through the worksheet, and then I'm sure I'm going to have to do about 20 more. So I do
Yeah, I know
choose
there's
to
a time thing.
reconnect. Yeah. I choose to reconnect to my original being love instead of my upset. In the rose and the butterfly story, you know, the rose and the butterfly are in the garden, and they have this awesome relationship, and the butterfly flies away. And because the rose thinks there's nothing greater than the love of the butterfly, it uproots itself to give chase. When the rose uproots itself, it pulls itself away from its source, it dies. And when our anger or our fear or our guilt or whatever is more important than staying connected to love, we initiate our own death. So I choose to reconnect to my source. And in order to collapse my false reality and be liberated from my hostility and fear and get back to my actual mind and the truth about me and my object of attention, I cancel my goal for Dad to be whole, and I cancel my goal for me to feel better and for me to be whole. And I invite Ruka to incline me toward healing. I invite Ruka to restore me to my original nature love.
Can
I
I
invite
interrupt you
Ruka.
one
Yes, yes.
Your goal was to have my dad do well.
Oh, okay. Dad to be well, so that I could
Feel better about yourself
feel better.
and be whole. So your goal, you're giving up that goal for Dad to do
Dad
well.
to be well. And giving up the goal, the underlying goal, for me to feel better and to be whole. And I am whole. I just am not feeling it.
Right, but your condition was that if Dad gets well, you can be whole.
Yeah.
Yes, you can be whole without. You're putting your roots back into your source right here.
Right. So I cancel my
Your root isn't
goal.
Dad.
Right. Cancel my goal for him to be well.
Yeah. There's copy exactly from number 3, so I had to intersect.
I appreciate that. I had actually flipped the page, and I hadn't written that down exactly. So I'm glad you did, because that's what we do. We'll switch worksheets if we're not careful, and then we don't get to the bottom of it when we switch worksheets. So
Excellent. You want to go on from there?
Yeah. So I invite Ruka to incline me toward healing.
So
I
go
invite
back
Ruka
and
to
once again cancel my goal.
Okay. I cancel my goal for Dad to be well,
so that
I could feel better and be whole.
Yeah. Good. Breathe.
Yeah.
Good.
And I invite Ruka, Spirit, to incline me toward healing. I invite Ruka to restore me to my original nature love. I invite Ruka to assist me in keeping love present. I invite Ruka to help me come into direct conscious relationship with and remove the dissociated projected parts of my carbon-based memory. And I do feel so much better.
Well, and
I know
good. And just wanted to say that what you do when you take your roots out is you invite the abuser to be the authority. The abuser has no power, no say in this at all. Dad is abuser, anybody else as abuser. You never deserved that.
And since nobody else is doing it to me, I'm just doing it to myself.
Yeah.
So I choose to not do that. I choose to respect myself and honor myself and see myself as love.
This is a great enlightened goal you're already at, that you now feel, you were doing now feel. So it doesn't really matter.
Oh, yeah. I do feel better. I know I've still got some to do, but I definitely feel better than at the beginning of the show.
Good.
And about the situation in one, Dad and his physical situation and all of that, is that it happened. I didn't cause it. And when have I violated the goal?
Yeah, right.
How would I reword that? When have I violated the goal for myself or others for Dad to be well?
For yourself,
I guess,
have you violated a goal against yourself being well?
Yeah. Yep.
You are now the loving guardian of your innocent self, Jeanie, from now on.
I like that. And Dad, I acknowledge us creating truth, perfect love, and moving forward from here.
You had used the word respect myself, and you said being a loving guardian of your innocence is, you liked that. I know I'm railroading you, but we're at the end of the hour,
No,
and I think those are good, loving goals. And that releases your Dad to do what he's going to do.
Yes.
And you can give it your blessing rather than being fearful.
Right. Yeah. You know, I had told him about a week or so ago that I released him, you know, that he could go.
Good for you.
But maybe part of me had not. You know, I feel like I can now.
And maybe, you know, he knows he left for not so good reasons back then, and maybe there's some releasing he needs to do, and maybe you're doing it for him. That he could feel free to go because it's a positive direction, not an escape from something.
Right, right. And the show's going to cut us off here in about 30 seconds. But, oh, my gosh, Thank you, Susan, for walking me through it. Thank you, Ann and Samantha.
Well, you taught me how to do it. You guys taught me how to do it. So I love
this has been awesome. Thank you, everybody, for holding the space.
Thank you so much, Jeanie.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you, and I hope everybody has a phenomenal weekend.